Sonic Adventure. Released in 1998 for the Sega Dreamcast, it was the first main series 3D Sonic game. It hit the scene after Sega did some experimentation with Sonic in 3D, most notably Sonic Jam and the cancelled Sonic Extreme. It received critical praise and became the Dreamcast's best-selling game. In 2003, it was re-released under Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut on the GameCube. Before that, however, a sequel, Sonic Adventure 2, was released on the Dreamcast in 2001. Sonic Adventure 2 also received critical acclaim, being one of the fan-favorite entries in the series. Many people expected Sonic Adventure 3 to come soon after, with the popularity and re-releases of the other two versions, as Sonic Adventure 2 also got a re-release in the form of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube. However, 17 years later, Sega still shows no indication of ever returning to the Sonic Adventure formula. Let's take a look back at the Sonic Adventure series, see where they left it, and see if it should continue. To do that, we'll start at the beginning, with Sonic Adventure 1. Sonic Adventure takes a split approach to telling its story. The game takes place across 6 character stories that take place concurrently, allowing you to see the story from 6 different perspectives. You can play as Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big the Cat, and E102 Gamma. The gameplay varies from character to character, but typically involves the character having to get through some number of action stages, where you usually have a starting point and an end goal to reach. Outside of the main story, there are missions and time trials, unlockable retro Sonic games, and the much-loved Chow Garden, where you can care for your Chows and enter them in races. During gameplay, you encounter 3 hub worlds, which serve to be areas to traverse getting to the next mission. They're pretty small, but for a game from 1998, they do their job. It's definitely not an open world, as most of the time while completing the story, you only have one place you can actually go to next. Now, before we go any further, I want to address some things. While this is an analysis and look back at Sonic Adventure 1, this video will be covering exclusively the stories of the 6 main characters and won't be going into detail on the side content and the Chow Garden. This is because I want to save the Chow Garden for a whole video, and because playing the Chow Garden requires collecting emblems to unlock things, I'll cover notable side content in that video, so expect that. Also, I'm playing on the GameCube version, Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut. With that, let's jump into the story of Sonic Adventure 1. The game starts out in Station Square, the main city area present in the game. We see Sonic having a great time jumping from building to building and lands on a JPEG before seeing a ton of cop cars driving toward the center of the city. Also, good lord, look at this guy in the back. Does his car work? Sonic heads over to check it out and we see the cops fighting Chaos, the main villain monster of the game. Their bullets don't work, but obviously Sonic slamming into him will, so it's time to fight. Chaos Zero puts up little to no fight. If you know how to use a homing attack, you can beat him. Cut to the next day, and Sonic watches Tails crash his plane and die, and heads off to collect his corpse. Enter the first action stage of the game, Emerald Coast. It's a very straightforward first mission, but there are some things to note here, because you run into one of the game's main design choices with Sonic, which I will refer to as guided sections. These include loops, heavily swerving track sections, and the infamous whale escape. In these sections, the game essentially wants you to hold one direction the whole time, even with the camera changing sides. It's supposed to give the game a bit of a cinematic look, and I'll say that as a kid, stuff like the whale escape really blew me away. However, what you'll quickly realize is that this game is a bit buggy. If you try to move your stick in a way that makes sense, like following where the path is relative to the camera, there's a good chance the game might just freak out. For a fantastic example of this, here's a clip from Game Grumps showcasing this in spectacular fashion.
This is unacceptable! How do people defend this game?
This is a retroactive outrage.
Oh my god!
No.
What
It's pulling you towards it.
Whoops. Oh, no.
God.
Okay. Well, there we go. Oh, Jesus. I'm up here now. How did I? Whoa!
We arrive at the end of the stage and find Tails, who surprisingly isn't dead. After crashing his plane because an emerald was an unstable power supply, he decides it's probably a good idea to head to his workshop to stick it in his other plane. Makes perfect sense. Surprise, Eggman wants the emeralds. Time to fight. The fight against the Egg Hornet isn't hard. It mostly amounts to running around aimlessly before Eggman shouts,
"All systems, full power!"
and jams his ship into the ground for you to smack. Sonic beats him, but Tails is an idiot and Eggman steals the emerald anyway. Time to go emerald hunting. Up next is Windy Valley, Sonic's second action stage. In this stage, you make your way through the normal part of the stage before encountering and being sucked into a massive tornado. The effect is kinda cool. The way they set it up seems like you're just playing normally and the tornado shows up and takes you off the stage. Once inside the tornado, you begin to make your way up to the top to get out, and here we can talk about a mechanic that's used lightly throughout Sonic's story. There are these jump panels that send you to a few of them in sequence where you have to press A again to keep jumping, otherwise you fall off. As a kid, I always thought these were cool, but now that I'm playing the game again, it feels like such a basic mechanic. Like, you just stand on it and press A and you jump a bunch. That's really it. It doesn't require any sort of skill or timing. You make your way out of the tornado and suddenly you're way higher in the air. Like you can't even see the actual earth, you're so high up. You race down some tracks and get the emerald to finish the stage. Sonic decides his luck has been good and it's time to double down. To the casino. Now look, I know this is a video game and there are mechanics just for the sake of game mechanics, but like, why is the door to the casino controlled by a giant button on the sign that no human can reach? It baffles me. Anyway, it's not like it really matters because this casino is not one that any human could enjoy anyway, as the two main attractions are giant pinball machines that you put yourself into. So it looks like only Sonic characters who can roll into a ball can enjoy this place. Talk about appealing to a niche market. The two pinball machines in the casino are a Sonic-themed pinball machine with a slots minigame, if you hit a certain spot, and a Knights machine, which operates on a similar system to video poker. There's cards scattered all over the board for you to pick up and make pairs, three of a kind, etc. This machine gets more interesting though, because if you shoot the door at the top of the machine, you get to go to a different table that seems to look a bit like Nightmare from Knights. The Knights table is way more fun in my experience, and also faster due to it generally giving you more rings, as the Casinopolis stage requires collecting enough rings to deposit into a massive vault to the point where you can climb up your pile of cash and get an emerald. If you're playing a pinball machine and you get over a certain number of rings, when you lose you'll simply be deposited out front of the machine. However, earn too few rings and you'll be sent into a sewer-looking place. This is the closest Casinopolis has to a full action stage type level. You have to go through this mini-level underneath the casino to get back up to the main floor. It mostly involves traversing through what appear to be air vents and giant fans before eventually exiting via a ladder that comes back up in the bathroom. Gross. Okay, cool. We finally got 2 emeralds. Yay! Oh, but wait, Sonic and Tails drop one and get sleep gassed by Eggman, and he steals one. Up next is Ice Cap. This level is pretty alright. They managed a few interesting design ideas here. Climbing and jumping between icicles is neat, and the whole level kinda involves traversing up the inside of an icy cave. It's a pretty fun level. Once you get to the top and get outside, it's windy as heck, and Sonic walks out to a ledge before seeing a massive avalanche. He hops on the most conveniently placed snowboard in existence, and off we go. After you escape the avalanche, you're free to go down the hill at your own pace, and even hit jumps and do tricks that have their animation cut off early every time. Wow! You grab the emerald at the bottom and complete the stage. Afterwards, Sonic and Tails run into Knuckles for the first time in the game, and he's looking for a fight. Knuckles also wants the Chaos Emeralds we have, and he seems intent on beating us up and taking them. This fight can be summed up in one phrase.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Then Sonic drops the emeralds again, and Eggman steals them. We're pretty much just collecting them for him at this point. The Chaos 4 fight takes place in the nearby pond, and consists of mostly jumping around and air dashing while waiting for him to surface so you can hit him with a homing attack. You do this a few times, and he's dead. After the fight, Eggman escapes to the egg carrier, and Sonic and Tails get ready to chase after him. And oh boy, get ready for the most fun mission ever. Sky Chase Act 1 consists of essentially waiting. It's an on-rails plane shooter section that is incredibly hard to lose. Just fly around and hold B to lock on and destroy every plane ever. At the end of the mission, their plane gets blasted by the egg carrier's laser, and they crash to the earth and die in a spectacular fireball. Just kidding, Sonic's perfectly fine. Tails is probably dead though. Sonic runs into Amy, who seems more concerned about going on a date than escaping the murderous robot chasing her, so off to the next stage we go. Twinkle Park is probably one of the best levels for Sonic, and probably the best location you visit action stage-wise. I really love the theming of this level. The stage starts out with a go-kart section, and it's pretty fun, but the controls are a bit wonky. At the end, Sonic gets placed immediately onto a roller coaster, leading him into the park. From there, you make your way through the castle and get to the end of the stage. There's some fun enemies to fight, there's this little bowling minigame, and some neat platforming. Overall, a pretty fun stage, though at this point you'll start to realize the Sonic stages are starting to slow down a bit. Less about going fast and more about platforming and some light puzzling. Whoops, Sonic lost Amy. It's okay, Sonic, grab this conveniently placed keycard and head into the next stage. Speed Highway is the level that takes place on the rooftops of Station Square. It's a pretty straightforward stage consisting of lots of space for going fast, but this is one of the levels where Sonic's movement can get pretty messy if you touch the edge of wherever you're running. Towards the end of the first part of the stage, Sonic runs out onto an observation deck that breaks, and he sprints down the building, in what is a pretty neat but short section. The effect it gives is nice, and you get to smash through a ton of glass, which is satisfying. After this, you get placed in a little grounded city area that you can traverse through in a few different ways to get to the end of the stage. It's a neat little area, I quite like it, though I'm not sure if it fits with the name Speed Highway. Hey look, there's Amy. Oh, she got abducted by Eggman. Oh well. Up next for the action stages is Red Mountain. The first part of this stage has a similar feel to the first section of Windy Valley, with some generic level traversal between the random floating landmasses the level consists of. After taking a few zip lines, you'll find yourself inside the mountain, which seems to be volcanically active. There's lava like everywhere. Most of this level involves running sections and platforming over pools of lava, usually using your homing attack or the lightspeed dash via rings. Sonic makes it to the end, and just as it looks like the egg carrier is going to get away, Tails shows up on a fancy new plane and grabs Sonic, and they give chase. And note the key word there is chase. Yep, Sky Chase Act 2. You get to do a slightly longer version of that rail shooter you did earlier. Only this time, at the end you get to shoot at a big cannon as a boss. Sonic and Tails crash into the egg carrier and head off to find Amy. Skydeck is a pretty iffy Sonic action stage. They got really ambitious with the mechanics on this one. You do a lot of climbing and sliding around the bases of these rotating columns in the beginning of the stage. It's a fine gimmick, I suppose, but it's really slow. Sonic is supposed to be fast, dang it. And the one part of the stage that tries to get you to go fast doesn't really work. There's these doubling back ramps that the game tries to force you down with boosters, but Sonic never passed through them correctly, so you end up just getting stuck a lot. It's really annoying. Eventually, you make your way to the top surface of the ship, where the mechanics get really weird. There's wind added, which can mess with you while you're trying to get through the level. It feels very strange. In addition, when you get near the end of the stage, the ship starts to tilt in weird ways. This section is interesting, but it can get pretty hard to tell where to go. The ways you're allowed to go are based on which way the ship's tilted, so you have to pay attention to that. Also, the transition between these three parts of the stage is literally involved being teleported to the next one after you destroy a large cannon. Not the best. Sonic makes his way to the bridge and finds Amy and Eggman just as Eggman grabs the bird that Amy's been with, which turns out to have had a Chaos Emerald. Eggman's robot, E102 Gamma, shows up, and it's time to duel. And by duel, I mean homing attack him 3 times and he dies. Sonic decides to stay on the exploding ship to fight Eggman. Actually, he's gonna fight Chaos 6. Oh, and Big is there too. The Chaos 6 fight takes more strategy than anything else so far, but it's still not really that hard. Eggman is dropping these little drone things that try to freeze you. If you homing attack one, it'll fall and you can pick it up. If you hit Chaos with it, he'll freeze and you can sometimes damage him. It's a simple mechanic, but dodging all the attacks can take a little work sometimes. It requires more than 0 effort to beat him. Eggman tries to escape, so Sonic jumps off the ship after him and comes crashing down to Earth. He's fine though. Then a red light thing appears and leads him into a temple in the middle of the Mystic Ruins. Lost World is probably one of the most interesting levels in the game. It's got a lot of different stuff going on, and the theming is solid. It starts out with some pretty straightforward running sections before you get to a big room filled with water and a giant stone snake creature swimming around. You have to make your way through the room and raise the water level using switches so that you can ride the snake to the exit door, which is opened by using 3 other switches in the room. It's definitely the most complex puzzle type thing they've done in the game up to this point, so it's pretty interesting, even if the standing on the snake can be a little buggy. After that, you head into a dark room where you have to move lights around to reflect light off of mirrors to light the room up so you can see where to go. Once you clear that room, you're faced with a large downhill section where you escape from a boulder, which leads you into yet another puzzle room. In this room, you're faced with a wall covered in panels that move when you press a switch. If you line them up, it creates a surface that lets you walk on the wall. It's an interesting gimmick, but doesn't really amount to much of a puzzle, since you just press the switch until it gives you a walkable path. It is a fun way to traverse through a room, though. Sonic has a flashback and sees some dead chows, and then he's awake again. Time to go beat up Eggman. The final egg is the point where you really realize they slowed Sonic's levels down to more platforming and puzzling and less long stretches of running. The level design is pretty underwhelming. A lot of the rooms are just full of enemies or big moving platforms where you just stand and wait for it to move. After you finish the stage, it's time for the final showdown with Eggman in the Egg Viper. This boss fight can also be a little underwhelming. It's not so easy you don't have to try, but it pretty much just involves moving around waiting for him to let him hit you, similar to Chaos 4. As long as you're moving, you probably won't get hit. His moves change up a bit, and at the end he starts removing platforms, making your stage smaller, but you don't have to last much longer after that starts. Homing attack Eggman a few times, and you did it! Okay, so Sonic's story was a bit long-winded, but don't worry, the rest of the stories are significantly shorter and consist mostly of small chunks of events that run concurrently to Sonic's story. Alright, on to Tails. Tails' story starts off after Sonic finds him at the beginning on Emerald Coast. Tails and Sonic head back to the Mystic Ruins to go to Tails' workshop like we saw in Sonic's story. And here we can talk about something very strange. In cutscenes that happen more than one time in the game, the cutscene dialogue is different. I find that extremely strange. It's literally the same cutscene. Why did they do more voiceover for it? Here, watch.
Well, well, well. If it isn't Sonic and Tails.
It's Eggman! Silence! I am Dr. Robotnik, the most cunning scientific genius in the world!
Yeah, right, Dr. Eggman.
If it isn't Sonic!
Look, it's a giant talking egg.
Silence! I am Dr. Robotnik, the greatest scientific genius in the world!
Whatever you say, Eggman.
It's just very weird. The first thing you do as Tails is fight the Egg Hornet again. The boss functions exactly the same, except you have to use Tails' Tailspin instead of the homing attack. Eggman gets the Emerald again, and we're off to Windy Valley, Tails' first action stage. Tails' action stage gimmick is that he races someone? So you're telling me that Sonic, the fastest thing on the planet according to some games, doesn't have race missions, but Tails does. In Windy Valley, it makes some sense that he can beat Sonic. The mission takes place on the post-tornado part of the stage if you were playing as Sonic, but they've added these green aerial boosters to help Tails take shortcuts and traverse the level faster. This makes sense, Tails can take shortcuts to beat Sonic, I can accept that. This level is fine, but a bit short. However, up next is Casinopolis, and this is where we're really starting to get iffy. The mission is still a race against Sonic in the underground area that you get sent to if you do poorly in pinball. First off, this stage is really short. But also, Tails should not be able to win this, come on. This is a flat foot race, Tails versus Sonic. Why can he win? Anyway, that stage takes about a minute and you're done. It's exactly the same as in Sonic stage. Eggman steals the emeralds and you're headed back to Mystic Ruins for Ice Cap. Or at least that's what you think. For Tails, Ice Cap is literally just the snowboarding section of Sonic stage. You race Sonic to the bottom, but I honestly think the game is designed to make Sonic lose. I was neck and neck with him the entire race right till the end, because there doesn't seem to be a way to actually increase your speed. The only thing that maybe increased my speed was the jumps, but I couldn't tell. Time to fight Knuckles again.
Oh no!
So we fight Chaos 4 again here, and it's just a million times more awkward than with Sonic. It's the same strategy, just move around until you're allowed to hit him. But Tails' tailspin requires him to be grounded, so you land close to him on the water and swing. But if you're not close enough, you need to move forward, which is a pain in the water. They needed to adapt this fight better to Tails somehow. Eggman dips and it's time to chase him. Wait, chase? Yep, we get to do Sky Chase Act 1 and Tails Story again. Woo! Good God, I wish they had just cut this out. Here's a pro tip if you're sick of Sky Chase. Put your plane at the top right of the screen and go to the bathroom, get some coffee, do some stretches, because you literally won't die. Now, this is the part where Tails' story starts to divide off for a bit, but not before seeing an oddly depressing cutscene featuring Tails walking through the woods with the most depressing music ever. I'm just gonna let you guys appreciate this one. Tails wakes up and reminisces about Sonic and him for a little bit. He seems very unconcerned that he just survived a plane crash. He decides he needs another emerald for the new plane, so he heads off to get one. I hope you like the snowboarding minigame, because now it's time for sandboarding. Tails has another snowboarding minigame, but on sand this time. The music in this stage is actually a bop though. Hit those gates and get to the end to grab the frog? We'll explain the frog later. He's important? Tails has a flashback, Tikal says something about the servers of the 7 Chaos Emeralds, and back to reality we go. Tails wakes up and Big the Cat is charging Tails like he's out for blood. Tails gets the emerald from the frog and it's time to upgrade the plane. We gotta go help Sonic chase the egg carrier. Wait. Chase? Why? Anyway, Sonic and Tails smash into the egg carrier and it's time for Skydeck as Tails. While this version of the mission only takes place in the first of the 3 parts we see in Sonic stage, this is probably the best Tails level. With the rotating columns easily traversed using flight, and the large gaps obviously made for crossing them with Tails, this level feels very well designed for Tails mechanics. Also, it has those green boosters again, so I can see Tails beating Sonic, especially considering how slow this part of the level is for Sonic. We run into Gamma again, and it's time to fight him as Tails. However, after the flashback, we now have the ability to just hold down Tails' spin attack and continue spinning forever. So hold down B and crash into him a few times to win. After you beat him, Tails' story diverges from Sonic's again. The egg carrier is going to crash, so Tails takes Amy and gets out of there. On the ground, he runs into Eggman, who is going to try to destroy Station Square anyway with a massive missile. However, the missile is a dud, so Eggman and Tails both race to it, and into Speed Highway we go. This is another good Tails stage. Again, the large amount of gaps in platforming / flying space just make a good area for Tails to work with. It's a fun level to get through for sure. Also, the race mechanic makes way more sense in this mission because you're racing Eggman and you're actually racing to something important. Get to the missile and Tails disarms it. Back by the casino, Eggman is frustrated and says he's gonna make everyone pay for this. So in comes the Eggwalker. It's not a hard boss by boss standards, but it's definitely Tails' hardest boss. All you gotta do to knock him down is to go underneath him and avoid the shockwaves so that you can spin attack the legs and make him fall. It doesn't take much effort, and like all the bosses in this game, a few hits and he's dead. The people of Station Square celebrate and credits roll. Yay! Alright, onto our resident red boy Knuckles. Here we're gonna start seeing some major separation from Sonic's story, since the remaining characters don't interact with him as much. It starts off by showing us Knuckles slacking at his one job, defending the Master Emerald. Whoops, the emerald got destroyed. Better find the pieces. We head into his first stage, Speed Highway. Knuckles' gameplay consists of a sort of hot-cold game using the tracker to find the missing pieces of the Master Emerald. A lot of times it involves just running in random directions until you get something on your tracker. At least it lets you track all three at once, though the incessant beeping might drive you crazy. This stage takes place in the little city ending area present in Sonic's stage. It's a fun area to run around in, but it's hard to comment on the gameplay of Knuckles' stages considering they mostly consist of running around in circles until you find the tracker, and the stages can be done very quickly if you get lucky. Casinopolis is the next stage, and I actually like this one because you get to see more of the inside of the casino. There's a whole area that only Knuckles can get up to above the main casino floor. Other than that though, it's hard to say much else. It's the same Knuckles gameplay. There's a pirate ship, there's a big lion statue, gaming analysis, yay. After this, Knuckles gets his flashback scene. We see Tikal begging her father not to use the emeralds for war. She asserts her dominance by T-posing on him, and then the flashback ends. When Knuckles heads back into the hotel, he runs into Eggman, and here we see a beautiful display of Knuckles being a massive idiot. Knuckles accuses Eggman of stealing the Master Emerald, but he just has a regular Chaos Emerald. Eggman decides it's time to test another Chaos improvement, so it's time to fight Chaos 2. Chaos 2 is really easy still. Yet another boss that is just run around and wait until you're allowed to attack him. I'm sensing a theme here. Anyway, Eggman convinces Knuckles that Sonic is also looking for the Master Emerald shards, and Knuckles decides this is a bad thing. Anyway, time for the next level, Red Mountain. It's still the same gameplay. This level had a bit more verticality, but that's the most noteworthy difference I could come up with. Time to fight Sonic, and the tables have turned!
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Knuckles also gets a chance to fight Chaos 4, and this one is somehow the easiest of all three. Knuckles can just glide around until Chaos comes up, and then you can literally just fly into him. So to continue from here, you head into the big forest area, and you find a gold statue right away. You take it to the big ruins, and you place it on the pedestal. And oh look, there's a spot for another statue. I wonder where it is. Good question. The game doesn't even give you any hints! It's tucked away in this little side thing that I never noticed while running around normally. I had to look up where it was. Lost World for Knuckles is inside the wall panel puzzle room from Sonic's stage. Except for Knuckles, it literally doesn't matter because he can just climb the walls. It doesn't really add anything by having it be this room. They could have just removed the wall panels for this version or something. Ooh, Knuckles gets 2 flashbacks. Tikal's gotta do something. Yeah, do it, Tikal. Time to get the last pieces. Skydeck is the most mechanically interesting level for Knuckles, but also arguably the most annoying. It takes place in the last area of Sonic's stage, and the main mechanic involves manually tilting the ship so you can get to certain places in the area to get the emerald shards. Some of them even require certain angles. I like the idea, but it just results in you going back up to the top to move the ship a bunch of times, and the little joystick thing you use to tilt the ship doesn't always work right. Another flashback! Oh, everything's on fire! Alright then. This time Knuckles gets to fight Chaos 6. The mechanics of this fight are the same. Grab the little freezer robots and chuck them at Chaos to freeze him. The only difference is for this fight, there are 2 holes in the battle arena for some reason. We did it! We put the emerald back together! On to Amy. Amy's out doing some shopping when suddenly the egg carrier shows up overhead. A bird lands near her along with a bloodthirsty robot. She decides to protect the bird and hides in a nearby restaurant. She finds Sonic and we're right where we saw him earlier, so into Twinkle Park we go. Amy's action stages consist of running away from Zero, the bloodthirsty robot we saw earlier. Her goal is to get to the balloon at the end of the stage and escape. The actual layout of her levels are usually structured into some mini puzzle areas. The actual layout of her Twinkle Park stage isn't anything crazy, but I do like that we get to see some new parts of the stage we didn't see before. That's one thing this game's crossing stories do really well. I like being able to see the different parts of the same stage. It makes the game feel way less samey. Also, to briefly touch on escaping Zero, it's really not hard. Amy has a massive hammer that she can use to very easily keep Zero at bay while doing puzzles and moving through the level. I did not get caught by Zero once during Amy's story. Hey, Amy escaped the robot! Except not really, she gets caught right away. She's imprisoned on Eggman's ship, and E-102 Gamma comes in to get the bird from her. Amy manages to appeal to the emotions of a robot, and instead he just lets her go. Yes, this really happens. Amy has to escape. She has to get out of the ship. But oh no, there's a whack-a-mole minigame blocking her path. I literally just spammed B and spun around and won. Alright, so before we get into Amy's hot shelter stage, we gotta talk about Amy's movement. Amy moves so slow. She moves so slowly that she barely makes it up slight inclines. This can be a little annoying because Amy has a move where if she's moving fast enough, she can vault with her hammer to get a bunch of height. This is the most fun move in the game, in my opinion, but it's hard to get enough speed to use it sometimes. Moving into Hot Shelter, I noticed something strange. The previous action stage took about 2.5 minutes for me to clear. This one took 8.5. This mission is strangely significantly longer, and I think it's the longest mission in the game. This one is easily Amy's best stage. There's a lot of interesting puzzles to deal with while managing Zero. A notable one is gathering different colored keys in a small area to open a door while dealing with Zero chasing you. You have to multitask a bit, and it's nicely balanced, actually. Alright, another gripe here. Amy has a flashback sequence and is spawned in the big temple area. In every other flashback, it spawns you in the temple or at the altar, whichever you need to be at. Amy's flashback spawns you at the temple, but actually wants you to turn around and go through a closed door that leads you to the altar. It does not tell you this in any way. I had to look it up. Why not just spawn me at the altar? Anyway, Amy ditches the egg carrier and decides we need to find the bird's family members, so we head to Final Egg. Strangely, this level is super short again, about the same length as her first level. I still cannot figure out why Hot Shelter was so long. What's worse is that compared to Hot Shelter, this one is just a lot less interesting. I had high hopes for stages going forward from Hot Shelter. They don't find the bird's family members in there, so Amy decides we should head to the crashed egg carrier because they might be on there. We get back to the egg carrier and it's finally time to fight Zero. This is easily the most mechanically difficult fight in the game. It requires you to dodge Zero's variety of attacks while pushing him toward the electric bounds of the area to stun him so that you can actually damage him. It requires some thought and patience since you can't just chain hit him like some enemies in the game. Honestly, it's too bad Amy's campaign is so darn short, just 3 stages. There are a few really good gameplay ideas that just don't quite feel fleshed out. The birds all fly away happily ever after. Sadly, this is where things begin to take a turn for the worse. I hope you like fishing! Big the Cat's story consists largely of confusion. At the very beginning, Big's frog, Froggy, is seen running into a liquid form of chaos. When Big wakes up, Froggy has a tail now. Also, he's acting strange and runs away, so Big is on a quest to catch him. Okay, since the actual gameplay of Big's 4 stages is largely the same, let's talk about it. Big's levels are fishing minigames. And good God, the fishing controls are so confusing. Once you've got your line in the water, you can reel fast or slow and move the lure left or right, strangely by pressing the opposite direction on the stick. Now here's the thing. As a kid, I had an absolutely atrocious time with these missions, and I'm probably not the only one. I always felt like they were impossible and were completely luck whether or not the fish would get hooked to reel in. I was fearing the worst because as a kid, the missions took me like 30 or more minutes. Replaying the game again, I figured out why I had so much trouble. You have to actually do something to hook the fish when it bites. It's not just luck. When the fish bites, you have to press down on the control stick to hook it. The game never tells you this. It's in its controls menu, but it's never told to you in the game as far as I'm aware. I played this when I was a kid like 10 years ago, and all the way up until now, I still didn't know that that was what you had to do. Once you know that you have to press down, it's the easiest minigame ever. You can beat the stages in under 1 minute if you get a good cast near Froggy. Anyway, the gameplay of Big's missions are the same throughout. Find where Froggy is and fish him out. So let's blaze through it. First up is Twinkle Park. You get spawned right in front of a pool. Oh look, there's Froggy. Oh no, Froggy escaped. Next mission. Ice Cap. Throw a rock through an icy lake. Fish out Froggy. Next mission. I'm being a bit hyperbolic because technically these missions are supposed to involve catching other fish and not just Froggy to get a higher rank. But if you're just trying to clear the story, this is really how simple it is. You spawn in, get Froggy, and that's it. Emerald Coast. Oh, we're on a beach. Catch Froggy. Next mission. The closest thing to an interesting big mission is his last one, Hot Shelter. You get to an area with a big water tank that Froggy has gotten into. You drain the water into the room you're in, and then you fish him out. It's a neat gimmick, but at the end of the day, you're still just fishing Froggy out of the water. The hilarious climax comes when Big encounters Chaos 6 on the deck of the egg carrier. Froggy's inside of Chaos, and Sonic is gonna fight and distract him, so Big needs to get Froggy out. Yes, you're gonna fish Froggy out of Chaos 6. It all built up to this. Sonic's distracting him. Now go, Big! Save your friend! And I did it in one cast. I aimed at Chaos and I cast it. It took 8 seconds. The final boss. Nice. If you're like me and we're just aiming to complete the story, Big's is so short. It literally took me 30 minutes to do it. Big gets Froggy and grabs the tornado from the egg carrier and flies it home. And hilariously, this is important later. Honestly, in my opinion, Big's entire section should have just been some kind of minigame. It didn't warrant its own full story. The final character campaign is E102 Gamma, Eggman's robot. The second model of his new robot series, you start off being put to the test in Final Egg. Also, the idea of Final Egg being the first stage for Gamma makes me laugh. Anyway, gameplay for Gamma's section consists of getting to an objective before a timer hits 0. Destroying enemies restores time on the timer, so you're encouraged to destroy many enemies. Luckily, this takes almost no effort. You want to kill stuff as Gamma? Hold down B and wiggle your joystick around and highlight as much stuff as you can to lock onto. It's essentially the grounded version of the gameplay from Sky Chase. It's so uninvolved. The first level is really short too. I only lost 8 seconds of the 3-minute timer by just holding down B to destroy stuff as I moved through the stage. Very low effort. After this, you fight E101 Beta, the robot built before Gamma. Gamma's fights are so easy though, it's hard to lose a fight when you have a lock-on that pretty much hits 100% of the time. Next, Eggman sends you to find a frog. I wonder which frog it is. You hit up Emerald Coast and move through a very short segment of the level and grab Froggy. It took about 30 seconds, no joke. And then Gamma gets a flashback sequence. Even the robot gets one. I love the image of Takal monologuing to Gamma, and he's just standing there like a bag of rocks. Time to fight Sonic, except this time Sonic gets wrecked after you lock-on shot him 3 times in a row. Every character fight in this game is just way too easy. I don't think I died on any of them. Luckily, after this, the Gamma levels get a bit longer, but the gameplay is just as shallow. Hold lock-on and run through the level. At the end of these stages, there's a fight against one of the other robots from the egg carrier, but again, they're all pushovers. They're no match for the power of your perfectly accurate lock-on shot. There is at least one harder fight. At the end of Hot Shelter, you fight E105 Zeta, and he's a pretty big robot. It takes place on a circular moving platform, and he's firing a lot of missiles at you. It requires management of where you are on the platform, in addition to paying attention to all the missiles he fires at you. I actually died a few times on this one. Pretty good fight for how simple Gamma's combat mechanics are. Finally, we come to the final boss, E101 Mark II. Another one of the best designed bosses in the game. He's got quite a few mechanics and attacks, and the fight actually requires some thinking. He's got a frontal shield most of the time, so the spam lock-on tactic you've been using for the entire game doesn't work here. You have to actually get behind it to damage him. He's also got a big laser aerial attack, missile stream attack in conjunction with a charge move, the one that you need to dodge to damage him, and a spinning attack that requires some jump timing. E101 gets damaged, but not before blasting Gamma and then dying. The bird inside E101 is revealed, and Gamma realizes what it is before he explodes. The 2 birds inside the robots reunite, seeming to imply that they realize what they were as brothers and are together at last. This is also easily the best story part of the game. It's a really neat and strangely emotional conclusion to an otherwise simple story about some robots. I like it. Okay, so you've done it. You've fished. You've flown. You've locked on.
Oh no!
It's time for the finale. Once you've cleared every character's story, you unlock Supersonic on the menu. Remember when Big the Cat took the tornado and left the egg carrier with it? Well, it had an emerald in it. The last emerald. Uh-oh. Chaos is betraying Eggman. We get one more flashback, and it shows when Chaos came into existence to protect the Chows. I believe this is the only time in any Sonic game that the Chows are actually relevant to the plot, by the way. Sonic and Tails find the crashed tornado, but it's too late, and we get a CGI cutscene of Chaos transforming into his ultimate form. And he completely destroys the city. Eggman flies in on the Egg Carrier 2 and gets blasted out of the air like it's nothing. Tikal appears before Sonic in reality, and tells him that he needs to destroy Chaos. Chaos took the power of the emeralds, but it's okay, he only took the negative power, so Sonic can take the real power of the emeralds. It's fine, it's not like that's total garbage or anything. Hey, there he is, Supersonic. Perfect Chaos is 100% the most visually and thematically appealing boss in the game. The way you attack him is by moving through a section of the city as fast as you can. If you get to Chaos and you're going fast enough, you'll get to the top and hit him before moving to another section of the city. It's super simple, and the design of the areas doesn't amount to much more than destroyed highway littered around the place, but it gets the job done. Perfect Chaos has a second form, but it's just more of the same, and the only difference is that he shoots more lasers and other attacks at you this time that slow you down so you can't hit him. It's unnecessary, but it is the final boss, so it needs to have some kind of length. Chaos transforms back into Chaos Zero and finds the Chows he was trying to protect all those years ago. Tikal and Chaos fuse? And Eggman heads off with Sonic in pursuit, showing that Sonic will never stop chasing Eggman. And credits roll. So that's it, every story campaign in Sonic Adventure 1. It sure is an adventure. The quality, content, and length of the game is all over the place, the scripted cutscenes are super janky, the voice acting is bad, but you know what? I can't say I didn't have some fun playing this game. This is definitely an example of a game that doesn't have to be a perfect 10 out of 10 to still get some enjoyment out of. And there were some really shining examples of design in certain places too. Every once in a while it seemed like the developers were going to have a revelation and figure out exactly how to make levels for a character. It certainly hasn't aged very well, and I had plenty of groan-worthy moments, but it's what I've come to expect from Sonic. I'm sure my view of this game is biased because I played it a ton when I was a kid, but it's still a game that I feel like I can have some fun with. Sonic Adventure didn't stop there. In 1999, Sega announced that Sonic Adventure 2 was in development, and it released in 2001. We're going to need to take a deep dive on that game too, so look forward to part 2 coming soon. Thanks for watching, guys. I sure thought this video was going to take less time to make than the F-Zero one, but boy was I wrong. Now, while part 2 covering Sonic Adventure 2 will be coming soon, There is one stopgap video I want to make before I do that, and that'll give me a bit of a break before I jump into Sonic Adventure 2, so expect that soon. In addition, I mentioned in this video that we'll talk about the Chow Garden as its own thing. I'm planning on making a video specifically about the Chow Garden after the Sonic Adventure 2 video is done, so look forward to that. While I'm working on getting through these games for the next 2 videos, I'm going to be streaming the gameplay over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TheManWins. So if you want to stop by and watch me working through those games, feel free to check it out. If there's a franchise you want me to look at for Franchise Graveyard and it hasn't had an entry in more than 5 years, leave a comment down below and let me know. Thanks again for watching, guys. If you liked what you saw, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.